HarperCollins presents A Naval Surgeon to Fight For by Carla Kelly, read by Helen Keeley.
Author note: I've worked in hospital and hospice public relations through portions of my writing life. I'm a historian by training and practice. Writing was always part of this, thanks to an excellent beginning in, yes, high school journalism. Had I continued beyond my master's degree in history, I know that a doctoral dissertation would have focused on US Civil War medicine. All this research has taught me a fact of which I have no doubt. Pre-21st century medicine makes some shake their heads over primitive practices and beliefs of the 18th and 19th centuries, as in, my word, didn't they know better? Not me. All my historical research in medicine has given me nothing but respect for those men. They were all men, then, who practiced to the extent of their knowledge. That's the key. I don't doubt they wished they knew more. Their writing sometimes expressed this frustration. Even in our age of amazing medical procedures, I also have no doubt that current practitioners of the healing arts wish they knew more. Think of it. Knowing more. Isn't this something we all wish? I hope my fiction conveys this deep admiration I have for surgeons and physicians of earlier ages. In memory of all the men who fought so gallantly at Trafalgar, and the never-mentioned wives there too. Also, in memory of my dear writing buddy. Prologue. At the age of 9, Jerusha Langley was no shrinking violet, no meek female, in an age when meek females were highly prized. Children were to be seen and not heard, and females, no matter what age, were never to call attention to themselves. Jerusha had long been curious about the duck pond on her father's modest property, or rather the parish's modest vicarage near Bolling, where the Langley family resided, thanks to a living furnished by Jerusha's aunt, Lady Oakshott, who had the good fortune to marry a baronet. The vicarage in Bolling was small, but ideal for an equally modest clergyman. For a few weeks, Jerusha had observed tadpoles turning into frogs on the pond's fringe. Mamma threw up her hands in exasperation when Jerusha trooped into the house bearing 3 little frogs. Papa gently reminded her that frogs belonged in ponds, and would she please return them. She did so, with no good grace, because she would have preferred to keep the frogs. Muttering to herself, she carried the frogs back to the pond, leaned over, and released them. In the process, she dumped herself in. It was early spring, so her coat dragged her down. She sputtered and thrashed into the middle of the pond, which took on the proportions of the ocean, so vividly described by her father's discourse upon Noah and his ark. She thought she might make sufficient headway if she flailed about enough. But that coat was heavy, and now waterlogged. She began to sink. When matters reached their worst, a boy appeared at the pond's edge, older and taller than she was. He hesitated not a moment, but plunged in, swimming to her. He grabbed the back of her coat and hauled her to shore. "You all right now, then?" he asked finally, in that Scottish lilt of his. She recognized him. His father was secretary to the solicitor who lived next door. Jerusha didn't know his name. He was a twin, and either Douglas or Jamie, but she thanked him for saving her life. "You should learn to swim," was his reply. He walked her home, all sodden and squelching. Mamma shrieked and accused him of pushing her in the water. Jerusha protested. The boy calmly assured her mother that he was merely walking by, and rescued her. Mrs. Langley whisked her inside and slammed the door in his startled face. And that was that, even though Jerusha protested as Mamma dried her off and stated that the boy had saved her life. "I've heard complaints aplenty about the secretary's twins," her mother said, when Jerusha was dry and sent to bed, over further protest, mainly because Mrs. Langley had personal tendencies towards hypochondria. "I know for a fact that one of them stole a pig. That's the rumour, but it came from a good source." Jerusha's, "But Mamma," fell on deaf ears. Mrs. Langley carried the news of Jerusha's near death to Vicar Langley, who carried the tale to the solicitor, who grilled his secretary, Daniel Wilson, and then sacked the man over his protests that Douglas, his more obstreperous...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?